March 22, 2025. The sky above the Red Sea is calm, but war, as always, is hiding just beneath the surface. A lone U.S. Air Force F-16, callsign Razor-1-2, is slicing through the air at 30,000 feet. It's a routine patrol, part of a broader deterrence presence. The pilot has flown this route dozens of times. He knows the terrain, knows the risks. What he doesn't know is that today, the enemy is waiting. From deep inside Houthi-controlled territory in western Yemen, a mobile launcher is powered up. The radar locks on. A missile, an Iranian-modified surface-to-air system, is fired without warning. Its target, Razor-1-2. But this isn't just a shot at an aircraft. It's a deliberate escalation. It's an attempt to provoke, and it fails spectacularly. Inside the cockpit, the pilot receives the threat alert. The missile is closing fast. He doesn't hesitate. Evasive maneuvers begin instantly. The F-16 dives, flares deploy, and the jet rolls hard into the turn. Seconds tick by like hours. Then detonation. Mid-air, no impact. The missile never touches the jet. But what comes next changes everything. Within minutes, CENTCOM authorizes immediate retaliation. No more waiting. No more warnings. The rules of engagement have shifted. Now, if you fire, you pay the price. A multi-domain strike is ordered. From the Red Sea, the USS Philippine Sea, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, launches a swarm of Tomahawk cruise missiles. At the same time, U.S. Navy F/A-18S from the USS Truman roar into the air. Overhead, satellites and AUAC's aircraft begin feeding live data to commanders coordinating from both sea and land. The response is immediate, coordinated, surgical. Targets across Houthi territory are locked in command bunkers, mobile launchers, radar systems, drone control centers. Some are buried, some are mobile. All are about to be annihilated. The first wave of Tomahawks hits minutes later. Concrete shatters, vehicles ignite, communications arrays vanish in a cloud of flame and static. Then come the airstrikes. Super Hornets engage with precision-guided JDAM and standoff weapons. Drone footage captures the aftermath. Burned-out weapon caches, collapsed bunkers, shattered convoy lines. Entire launch sites erased from the map. The message is crystal clear. You fire at us, you lose everything. What was supposed to be a symbolic strike by the Houthis turns into a devastating blow to their operational capability. And more importantly, their credibility. For months the Houthis had projected strength, claiming control of coastal launch zones, disrupting shipping lanes, boasting of their ability to strike at will. But now, in under an hour, their narrative collapses. Their missile was defeated, their positions destroyed, their propaganda machines scrambling for explanations. The Red Sea's rules of engagement have changed, and the Houthis just learned them the hard way. This was no overreaction. It was deterrence, redefined. Every Tomahawk launched, every bomb dropped, was a calculated decision to protect the free flow of global commerce, to defend the lives of U.S. service members, and to ensure that no missile attack goes unanswered. And while the damage to their equipment is clear, the greater cost may be psychological. The Houthis now understand that every launch can and will bring fire down upon them, from sea, air, and orbit. That even a failed strike is not a harmless gesture. It's a trigger for overwhelming retaliation. They attacked a U.S. fighter jet and lost far more than they ever intended. And as the smoke clears over Yemen's western highlands, as intelligence confirms the kill count, as commanders prepare the next set of contingencies, one thing becomes obvious. This wasn't just a counterattack. It was a turning point. A tactical blunder by the enemy that reset the balance of fear. A failed launch that triggered a full-spectrum show of force. And a reminder to every adversary watching from afar, Russia, Iran, North Korea, that the U.S. doesn't just respond. It retaliates with precision, speed, and overwhelming intent. The skies are no longer open for ambush. The sea is no longer a playground for proxy war. and the battlefield. It now belongs to whoever acts faster, hits harder, and never misses twice. This time, the Houthis picked the wrong target. Next time, they might not have time to pick at all. Think about that. The strike is over, but the ripple effect is just beginning. Within hours of the U.S. retaliation, intelligence analysts across CENTCOM, NSA and JSOC are already sifting through the aftermath. Satellite imagery, intercepted comms, thermal signatures, all point to one conclusion: the operation succeeded beyond expectations. A confirmed minimum of 6 high-value Houthi targets eliminated. 3 confirmed destroyed mobile launchers, 2 hardened radar arrays neutralized, 1 underground drone coordination node flattened. Not symbolic damage, not a warning shot, strategic decapitation. And that's exactly what makes this different. This wasn't reactive policy. It was calibrated escalation, designed not just to punish, but to dismantle. For months, U.S. forces in the region had been playing defense, intercepts, maritime escorts, drone shootdowns. But this strike flipped the paradigm. It demonstrated a new posture: offensive deterrence, proactive retaliation, a standing policy that doesn't wait for casualties to justify action. And that shift is seismic, because now, the burden is on the Houthis and their backers like Iran. The regime in Tehran has long used the Houthis as a low-risk pressure valve in the region, a tool to harass maritime traffic, distract U.S. naval assets, and test weapons systems far from Iranian borders. But now, with the U.S. response targeting not just launch platforms, but the broader network behind them, that strategy has become more dangerous. Iran's calculus has changed. Every Houthi missile fired now invites a possible counterstrike that inches closer to Iranian strategic interests. The U.S. just proved it can dismantle proxy capabilities with speed and precision, and it didn't need a declaration of war to do it. The gloves are off. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Truman, the atmosphere is focused. No celebration, no bravado, just quiet professionalism. The aircrews that launched the follow-on strikes are already cycling into mission debriefs. Engineers pore over sortie logs. Weapon officers audit each engagement profile for data, accuracy, exposure time, threat proximity. Everything is recorded. Nothing is overlooked. Because this wasn't just a battle, it was a demonstration. And every demonstration is a test for the aircraft, the crew, and the command structure. One key takeaway: the effectiveness of multi-domain synchronization. This operation wasn't just about air power. It was a 3-pronged assault: cyber, kinetic, and maritime. As the Tomahawks flew in low from the sea, jamming aircraft and space-based assets blinded local enemy radars. Electronic warfare teams disabled comm links between field units. ISR drones fed real-time updates to a strike command center hundreds of miles away. This is what modern warfare looks like: a battle fought across physical, digital, and orbital domains, all in sync, all in seconds. And the result: total dominance. But the strike didn't go unnoticed. In Sana'a, Houthi leadership scrambled to control the narrative. Official channels issued vague claims of civilian casualties and Zionist American aggression. But the damage was too widespread, too obvious. Videos leaked from the blast zones showed incinerated weapon stockpiles and collapsed bunkers. No civilians, no bystanders, just destroyed infrastructure and panic in the ranks. Local tribal leaders, previously neutral, are reportedly distancing themselves from Houthi command, not out of principle, but out of survival. The strike made one thing clear: proximity to Houthi missile teams is now a liability. That shift on the ground could prove just as decisive as any bomb dropped. And while the Houthis reel, the U.S. begins positioning for what comes next. Marine Corps assets in Djibouti are now on 48-hour standby. Special operations detachments are already running reconnaissance on suspected Houthi safe houses and logistics nodes in remote areas. Naval drones are being deployed to surveil choke points along the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and CENTCOM has activated contingency plans for additional strikes. pre-targeted, pre-approved, ready to launch at the first confirmed provocation. But it's not just about Yemen. Allies in the region are watching closely. Saudi Arabia, for years locked in its own conflict with the Houthis, issued a rare public endorsement of the U.S. operation. UAE defense officials have requested high-level briefings with U.S. Naval Command to explore coordinated patrol options. Even Egypt, usually cautious, has signaled willingness to increase Red Sea security cooperation. Why? Because everyone knows what's at stake. Roughly 12% of global trade passes through the Bab el-Mandeb. Disrupting that flow doesn't just hurt local economies, it sends shockwaves through global markets. Energy prices spike, insurance rates soar, strategic alliances are tested, and the Houthis, backed by Iran, have made that disruption a centerpiece of their strategy. Which is why this strike mattered. It wasn't just retaliation, it was reassurance, to allies, to commercial partners, to the international system. It said the U.S. still owns escalation dominance, and to adversaries, it said something else. You can try to probe, you can even get a shot off, but the response will be immediate. It will be multi-domain, and it will cost you more than you ever intended. That message wasn't just for the Houthis, it was for anyone watching with intent. Russia, China, North Korea. They're studying the data, the footage, the timeline, not because they care about Yemen, but because they want to know what happens when you take a shot at a U.S. asset in a contested zone. Now they know. The F-16 never went down, the pilot never had to eject, the mission never stopped, and before the day was over, a layered global strike network had already leveled the battlefield that produced the threat. The blueprint for response is now published, and that has consequences. Already Pentagon planners are adjusting future deployment models based on this event. Expect to see more forward-positioned drone swarms, more high-readiness strike groups, more distributed ISR nodes. Redundancy will be layered into every battle plan, no longer just protecting the asset, but ensuring retaliation regardless of outcome. In essence, we've entered a new phase of deterrence, where the cost of an attack isn't measured by damage caused, but by the devastation that follows. Meanwhile, Razor 1 Mine 2, the pilot who dodged the missile, has returned safely to base. His flight suit hangs in the ready room. His name for now remains classified. But what's already clear is that his actions didn't just avoid a loss. They triggered a strategic shift. By surviving, he set the clock ticking on the enemy's fate. By evading, he gave CENTCOM the justification it needed to hit harder, faster, and cleaner than ever before. And in doing so, he reminded the world of a simple truth. American air power doesn't just fly to defend, it flies to dominate. And when challenged, when a missile rises from a desert silo, aimed at the stars and soaked in proxy ambition, there is no hesitation. There is only precision. There is only speed. There is only speed. There is only firepower. That's what happened on March 22nd. And what happens next depends on who's still willing to test what comes after.